Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Renaissance Room podcast. And in today's episode, you can hear a little bit of excitement in my voice. So I actually wanted to come on and kind of make this a little bit of a, since I was talking about Black mental health, and I got a podcast that's going to be coming out, if it's probably already been released, about Obama. As from me watching my one episode documentary on the History Channel or History Network on Hulu about Obama and his presidency. But I want to talk about Black mental health, and I want to talk about what it looks like to reclaim Black excellence, Black agency, and creative power and healing through art, right? So right now, if you are in this space of academia or cultural commentary, video essayists, there's a lot of criticism, right? And I posed the question on the community page. I asked you guys, hey, listen, does being critical make you unhappy? And a lot of people actually said no. And by a lot, it probably was only like a few votes, meaning like a couple. And y'all know I have to disagree, right? I actually think that this level of criticism that we have today and our inability to balance it with possibility is leading a lot of people to feel hopeless, right? This is where you're kind of really getting this the version of this deep, profound sense of apathy, right? People aren't able to be happy. People aren't able to even be in relationships or friendships or connections or communities with other people because people are, deeply unhealthy, right? And so as I was thinking about this, I don't even know how I got here. Oh, actually, I do. I love this blog. It's Exo Nicole, and I've been looking at this blog for I don't even know how many years now, but it's been so long, and it's kind of been my little source for like celebrity gossip. Back when I was into like astrology and things like that, like it just has always kind of been a bit of a hub for the ladies. You can kind of acken it to like Essence. And so I was on Exo Nicole, and there was an article about Teyana Taylor and Aaron Pierre. And as you know, they are just such a beautiful couple, right? Like, I mean, we can just all be honest here. Right? It's a very beautiful couple. And I ended up finding myself watching an interview with her and Nessa from Hot 97. And one of the things that Nessa said about Teyana and Aaron is just how a picture really does speak 1,000 words, right? And how you really do see that within them and their relational dynamic. And we just be honest, sometimes people do critique and people hate and things like that. But I do think that there really is something said about authenticity, right? And I know we've kind of lost the art of photography, but I do believe that a photo really can capture 1,000 words. Like I go back and look at certain photos of me in previous seasons and everything that I was kind of going through internally, the unhappiness, the discontent, the misalignment, right? The being wherever I was at the time where I wasn't supposed to be, it's very evident. I go back and I look at that stuff and I'm like, yeah, I can see it now. I see so clearly why this wasn't aligned and how that doesn't look quite right for me. And so anyway, I'm watching this interview and I'm just deeply inspired, deeply inspired. Not only is her story inspiring, but it is something that personally resonates. And so a lot of people in the comments were just saying things to like, I'm just so happy for Teyana. And I think when you start talking about art and Black mental health and the exceptionalism and the hope and the inspiration that a lot of actors and artists do pour into the community, I think it's something that we can kind of reconstruct. And I think it's something that we need to reconstruct in order to kind of have a healthier sense of passion and healing, because I do think that art can really be healing. And I think art is spiritual. There are certain things that find you at a certain time in which you need those things to be spoken to you. I know for me, when Tina Knowles dropped Matriarch, I'm like, wow, this is very timely. Granted, I didn't get to finish the read, but I just always kind of felt like art was very spiritual. And I always kind of felt like, music has a way of really healing us and really kind of meeting you with some of the emotions and feelings that you can't articulate. And, if you allow, right, we know that this, even from a historical or spiritual standpoint, right, like blues, right, blues were were a way for Black men to kind of process some of that pain, process some of the things that they were going through at the time in which, blues was, popular. And so just very inspired all in all. And seeing the new movie that she has coming out with Leonardo DiCaprio, first of all, I am so proud to see that. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I'm not really a cultural critic or an art critic or you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to, process my excitement. But seeing just how within this film, right? Like it's a Black woman and it like the storyline, right? Like you just go watch the trailer, but the storyline in this film is not only progressive, right? Now, I gotta be honest, not only is it refreshing to see Tiana and Leonardo DiCaprio partnered as like a potential, relationship, or in this movie, they look like they're kind of like, partners in crime, so to speak. Not only is that refreshing because these are two incredible actors, right? If you've seen Tiana in 1001, then just amazing. Like, I mean, like Tiana, great artist, always has been through and through, right? Seriously. So seeing her with Leonardo DiCaprio was refreshing because I think for the first time we actually get to see a Black woman step into this role of desirability. Typically when you see these type of dynamics in movies where there's crime, where there's like this Bonnie and Clyde type of dynamic, you don't typically see a Black woman with a white partner, right? And you don't see them both equally as strong, right? And so this, for me, was incredibly refreshing. And I think for Tiana in her career, I mean, I can only imagine that being so immensely rewarding, right? I mean, you talk about Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like we all know the work that he has done in film. And to see that dynamic, I just think that is so revolutionary because we don't typically see that, right? Y'all know how it is. We typically see white women with Black men. And, these women are typically being the feminine, docile, the one that need to be protected. You know what I mean? But here you are, you have this Black woman who's in this very strong role, you know what I mean? And she's partnered with another great actor. And so that alone was just like very refreshing to see. In addition to that, just the storyline, like I said, you're seeing this kind of like this dynamic where it's like Tiana is, she's a woman and they're, they're in a relationship, but here she is and she's like this criminal, and it's just incredibly powerful to just kind of see that duality. And so I'm just very happy for her. It's really crazy. I was actually kind of just browsing around, looking up Iman, because I'm like, where is Iman today, right? And I just see that the LA Times just actually put out an article a few days ago where Tiana was found in contempt of court, and it looks like she actually owes her ex-husband $70,000 after information kind of leaked over the blogs about their divorce details. And I do think in part that might have come from Tiana giving a statement or two. I know she did when that gray hoodie in that video. I'm not really sure, but ultimately, you that's the thing about life, right? Like you could be in a space, and this is why I say it's so relatable, and it's one of those things that it doesn't matter, right? It crosses income and class and all these different things, right? Like here you are, you're doing all these great things. You've got a new partner, you know what I mean? It's healthy, it's beautiful. And, you're in one of, I don't even know what this film is going to do, but so far, I mean, like that's a significant role. That's an amazing, project that she just landed. She just dropped her new album, like doing all these great things. And then here it is, this lawsuit, and your ex-husband, you owe him $70,000, right? Like, I just feel like that's one of the things about life. Sometimes it can just hit all of us. But nonetheless, I just wanted to come on and say that I think it's time for us to kind of heal our relationship with art. I think, like I said, in this space right now where intellectualism is the new capital, right? Everybody is really wanting to prove intelligence. Everybody's really wanting to be smart. Everybody's really wanting to have a say and critique culture and feel this sense of moral, I don't want to say uppityness, but this sense of moral high ground by like critiquing capitalism and critiquing, I just think that it's refreshing to get back to putting artists in their place and allowing artists to do what artists do and being able to enjoy art, for personal consumption, for healing, for relatability, to connect and just to have passion really in your life. You know what I mean? And so that's all I was coming on here to say. I just think that, you talk about Black mental health. I think it's about restoring our relationship with art. You know what I mean? We all know from the beginning, at the crux of all of this, it is anti-Blackness, right? Like, there are other things though. Hold on, wait a minute. There are other things. And I'm not here to give anybody a pass. I'm not here to be like, oh, the industry, like, I'm not really here to do any of that or to say any of that. But what I'm saying essentially is that I just think that we've sort of lost a little bit of pleasure, in this critique, this culture of critique today. And, I'm sorry. No, we lost the pleasure when our relationships with our artists became parasocial. That's what I was going to say. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this kind of makes you start reconsidering certain things and, really thinking about where you are in your life, and what is missing in your life, right? Are you someone who's really bombarded with a lot of conspiracies, right? You have to understand conspiracies are things you personally cannot prove. All right. If you haven't seen it, you don't know. You know what I mean? And so are you missing passion? Does your life need a little bit more light? You know what I mean? Are you struggling with apathy? Cause it could be due to a lack of art, and so whatever that means for you, me personally, I think I've been through enough in my life. And I think where I am right now in my life, I just don't have the luxury of being negative. I think for a lot of people, if they get real about where they are in life, like, you just don't have the luxury of being negative. You know what I mean? Like, some of us don't have the luxury, the privilege to sit around and complain all day, to see the world through this lens of like, oh, well, institutions are corrupt and this is corrupt. Some of us have to get out here and really make it happen. You know what I mean? Some of us still have a little bit of drive. Some of us still have, dreams that we're wanting to be able to see manifest. Some of us are laying seeds for the next generation. Some of us, some of us need a little joy. Some of us need a little bit more light and pleasure in our lives, So I'll just leave you guys with that. I think that we should get back to the ordinary. We start talking about Blackness and art and music and all those things. I think we should get back to the ordinary. I think we should take it back to engaging with art in those things. Like I said, for on a spiritual level, letting it be a source of inspiration without always trying to peer behind the curtain and peer behind the door, right? That's not naivete. You know what I mean? That's just simply allowing yourself to dream a little bit. And perhaps maybe that is naivete. I don't know. Right? Perhaps maybe we need to get back to having a little bit of happiness. I don't know when we got to this place where we were just so cynical about everything, things we don't even know about. Rooms, spaces, opportunities, and industries we're not even privy to. We don't even know. We don't even know. You know what I mean? I think that many of us don't have the luxury of being negative. This attitude or this paradigm of conspiracy keeps us in a space of feeling stuck. It keeps us in this emotional state of apathy, right? Leaning to hedonism. Okay. And instead of, going to city council meetings, doing things in the world, believing in a better opportunity or a situation, for yourself, right? Believing that you can change your circumstances, believing that good things can happen for you, many of us are kind of just stuck going through the motions. And I think that art could help us alleviate some of that, right? Everybody's not going to go to therapy. Everybody's not ready to go to therapy, but I do think if we can get back to the fundamentals and the basics of enjoying the art and, really separating ourselves from the artist and the Instagram and the parasocial relationships, I think we can have a little bit more joy. Or at least have a little bit more understanding, or at least, reach some type of breakthrough in our own lives, by engaging with art in a very thoughtful and intentional way. It's like looking at a portrait and it just speaks to you. The artist painted it, You went to the exhibition and it speaks to you, you know? That's what I think we need to get back to. And I think that actually requires more energy, because it requires more energy to sit with something and be still and be critical and be self-aware versus, and when I say critical, I mean like attentive, and like self-reflective, that's a better word, versus just throwing tomato, critique, over all the things. Right. So I don't know. I just think that, I know for me personally, that is something that I think could really help, a lot of people triumph and just kind of, get through some things in their lives, So this is my episode on Black mental health and art, and I hope you guys got something from it. Peace.